and welcome to another elite episode of the Get Authentic with Marques show. I'm your host, Marques Ogden. On today's episode, we're joining Mr. Bobby Grossi. But before we bring up Bobby to the stage, I want to thank two of our amazing sponsors, Mini Minds. They are a fund that invests in computers and technology that do crypto mining, and Money Ripples. They help people grow their wealth through alternative investments to help them achieve what they desire financially and for their families. We thank both Mini Minds and Money Ripples for sponsoring this amazing episode. Now, here he is, Bobby Grossi. How you doing today, Bobby?
I do, Marques. I do, man. Thank you so much for having me, dude.
I look forward to it, my friend. Bobby, first question, sir. What does the word authentic mean to Bobby?
Oh, man, that's a great question because I live my life by authenticity. I think it's integrity, honor, respect, real, raw, right? I think people in dentistry, I'm a dentist by trade, right? So I think that what helped me grow my practice was the authenticity. I was born and raised in Flint, Michigan, and never had any money. Never really, my mom made $18,000 a year. My dad was addicted to drugs my whole life. Believe it or not, a quick version of myself. My last name was Loomis. And then once I turned 18, I honored my mom and changed my name to Grossi because I knew when I became something that I was proud of, I wanted to wear the Grossi badge versus the Loomis badge, right? And so to me, being authentic is just being real with who you are so people see the real you. That's authenticity. And I think even whether in business, people want to know who they're dealing with. They want to trust you. And so the more authentic you are, the more real you are, the more in touch you are with yourself, the better you have blessing the world. So that's what authenticity means to me.
I love it. That's exactly what this show is all about. Ladies and gentlemen, that you hear, when he turned 18, he changed his last name to Grossi because he wanted to honor his mom and that side of who he was. And again, that's what this whole podcast was designed to do. Pull out authentic stories of amazing, authentic people. Bobby, share with our listeners a little bit about what you did education-wise. Now you're a dentist, and give us that story, that trajectory. Because we talked about before we started how you knew the second half of my life and how you thought that story was much more impactful and inspiring than me just doing pro football.
Well, what's funny is, life's never this straight line. And I remember, I have a baseball ring, and baseball was my passion. My grandpa was a big baseball guy, and I thought I was going to be a professional baseball player. I really thought I was striving that way, had a full ride to play baseball and stuff. And February 3rd of when I was 18 years old, I played in the Connie Mack World Series, pitched against Derek Jeters of the world, did all these great things, these Hall of Famers. And I'm like, I'm just going to be a baseball player. Like, I live and breathe baseball. I was a pitcher, and my mentor at the time, which was my grandfather, got diagnosed with cancer. And I didn't really have that male figure in my life. So Marques, so I was struggling, and I'm getting emotional because here comes the authenticity thing, because I can go back in that moment and know what I was feeling. And my mom, God love her, she was working to put food on the table, but I really didn't know which way to go because I was getting pulled in a different direction. So I quit baseball, like flat out, just lost focus, quit baseball, didn't take my full ride. Didn't do anything like that. And I looked at my mom. I can remember my mom crying, and she just, because we didn't have any money here. I got a full ride to play baseball. I just said, I can't go. I can't leave my grandpa at the time because he had throat cancer. I just can't go. Something has pulled me to stay home. Then I loved music, man. I was a big music guy. I worked on, opened up for Shy. I opened up for a lot of music groups. I decided to work on music because it was my passion. I love singing. I was a rhythm and blues guy. Being from Flint, Michigan, not shocking. I like the Temptations. My mom raised me on the Temptations, the Four Tops. Everybody, Gladys Knight and the Pimps, like that's my music, right? So I'm like, man, I think I have a gift to sing. And well, anyway, I worked on that for 3 years, got really close. Almost signed with MCA. And then my grandpa, February 3rd in 1994, died of throat cancer. And all of a sudden, another thing. Here we go. Pause. What am I going to do? How am I going to honor people? I'm about living a legacy and trying to honor things. So I said, you know what I'm going to be? I'm gonna be a dentist. Nobody in my family, really, I wanted to be a medicine doctor at first. My wife, who's married to me now, she was at my girlfriend at the time. She said, "Are you sure you want to be married to your pager?" Now I'm aging myself. I'm 50 years old, and the pager used to be the device we all know, Marcus. You know what it is, but some people don't. Some people still wear pagers, but I don't know if they should. But the reality of it is I knew at that moment, okay, maybe dentistry is my calling to make an impact, and maybe prevent other family members from suffering from throat cancer. Maybe I could be that person. I want to be more of a father. So I didn't go medicine. I went dentistry to have more of a 9-to-5 job. Well, I thought it was a 9-to-5 job. And I wanted to do that. Then once I got into dentistry, I realized I'm meant to kind of serve people and speak. And so I started almost preaching in dentistry, if you will, sharing the Christ, sharing the Lord. And you see my sleeve right here. You can't see me on a podcast, but it says one way. And I put one way on my sleeve and 5X. 5X means I want to be 5 times greater today than I was yesterday. One way means through Christ. That's what it means. And so I started my practice, in Flint. I wanted to stay home, and I realized it was growing. And now the Dentist CO brand that you hear and see is I really want to teach young dentists how to truly be entrepreneurs. So as time goes on, I keep evolving. But at the end of the day, the core values is really to honor a name that I grew up with and a legacy that I want to pass on now to my kids and other people. So that's where I'm at, man.
Ladies and gentlemen, what's so compelling about that segment was everything, but the last phrase or the last part was the most compelling. One of the 7 vision categories per Jack Canfield, okay, is contribution/legacy. Again, contribution/legacy. So my first question for you, Bobby, after that amazing opening about who you are, what you're doing, you left baseball, you're close to your grandfather who passed away, God rest his soul. I was close to my grandfather, my mother's father, who was big in my life. My parents divorced. We were raised by a single dad. And then our grandparents were big in our life. Our mom's parents were not happy with my mom and sided with our dad to have access to their grandchildren. So our grandmother and grandfather were huge in our life. They lived probably 20 minutes away, stayed a lot of time with them. My grandfather was a boxing trainer in the DC Boxing Hall of Fame. So I'm with you, man. That's a great parallel between the two of us, right? So my question for you is, now that you're doing all this stuff as a dentist and you're helping people through faith and you're helping people through your story, what is the contribution or the AKA legacy that you would like to leave to let people know that Bobby Grossi has done all he can to help as many people as he could while he was here?
That's a really deep question. I love that question. My first legacy always goes to family first, right? My first legacy is God first, family second. But right now we're just talking about family. My legacy, I can't give a legacy to God besides serve God, but my legacy to my family is I want them to know that Dad exhausted every avenue possible to give them every single possible ability to accomplish and crush their dreams. Like, I want them to know the only selfish thing I have, Marcus, in my whole body is I want to have standing room only at my funeral. Because if I have standing room only at my funeral, that means I made the greatest impact. But if I can leave a legacy of a financial legacy, a spiritual legacy, Dad was in my life legacy, always, never missed a thing, was always showed up. Because, Marcus, growing up, I didn't know what a male figure was. So I want to create a new legacy of this is how a man stands. In the world we live in, this is what I stand for in my family. I want to live a legacy that they know that they can accomplish any single thing they ever set their mind to, right? Beyond finances. Now, a legacy in dentistry, I want to take the dentistry itself and make the new super dentist, I guess, if you could. Somebody that's in touch with everything, somebody that is real, somebody that's raw, somebody that can take a practice to go above and beyond, and somebody that always knows to serve first. So if I did all that and I made young kids have hope, so even when I do Growing with Grossi stuff, my podcast on Tuesdays, it's just a sign of hope, a beacon of hope for people that you and I who have failed, who have hit the pit, who have hit rock bottom, who did have nothing and came out of it. So I think if I can give people hope, inspire people, and give my kids the legacy and dream that I want, then I've accomplished my life.
Ladies and gentlemen, what I really am inspired by most in that segment is it's about family, right? So like me, I have a 9-year-old daughter. I have a 19-year-old stepdaughter. And even though I'm divorced at this point in my life, they still are important to me and they are everything. And, my stepdaughter, she's kind of going through a lot with the process and I understand that. And so I'm, whenever she wants to come around, I'm always here for her. I'll always be ready. And with my 9-year-old, I have her half the time. But when I have her that half the time, I'm 100% happy. And I really want to get into that. And I tell Farrah, because we have these very, very basic conversations. I'm like, Farrah, there's a lot of young ladies your age that their dad, unfortunately, is not in the picture. Or their dad is there, but he's a provider. He's not like hands-on. Like my daughter I picked up from camp yesterday. We went to see Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Came home, did some playing together, some art. We watched SpongeBob, put her to bed, woke up. Right now, what we had was called track out camp here in North Carolina. You're in school for 9 weeks, out for 3. It's no summer break. So they call it track out camp. So she's tracked out right now. And so we do things together, but I try to remind her very gently and very just, in a very nice way that Farrah, a lot of young ladies do not have a dad. Now, I had an amazing dad. He was the best, right? But I know a lot of my teammates from high school football, college football, the National Football League that didn't have that. You just said you didn't have that.
Right.
For people that are listening, right, Bobby? Talk about your desire to really make that charge, go boldly into saying, hey, dads can be involved. Not just a provider, but a teacher. Like I tell you, my dad was my provider, my best friend, my teacher, my protector. I looked up to him. He wrapped all those things into that. So my question is, talk about what you're doing on that crusade, better way to put it, about dads and how you are trying to help more people understand dads can and they should be much more involved.
Yeah, I mean, it all boils down to me. What are you committed to? Like what is you? We talked about vision. We talked about things. What are you committed to? What is it? So many times, Marcus, there's people that will make excuses that they can't be a good dad because they never had a father, which is complete garbage and nonsense. It's, to me, my kids did not choose to be in this world, right? We created our kids to be in this world. And my mission in life is, I know if you really go back to where your pain points were, whether it's you didn't have your mother, you had your grandparents like I had, but okay, we'll just flip-flop it. My dad was the one that wasn't around. So two different parents. Instead of living in the pit, in the darkness, and the pain, you embrace that because it made you and I who we are. See, I use that as fuel. You know what? That is exactly what I don't want to be. So I'm going to go here. I'm going to do this. Like, I'm going to plant a different seed culturally so that my kids know what a real father is and who they stand up and who they should even marry, who they should love. Because if I don't show them that, if I don't show my 2 girls who a father should be, if I don't show my son who a man or father should be, then I've done nothing as a parent, nothing. And I've never even created that memory. Forget about the money. Jesus Christ, man, I can make $1 million, go back down to $5. That doesn't matter. It's the memories and experiences that matter, right, in life. It's the memories. It's the experiences. That's all your kid remembers. They don't give 2 diddly squats how many gifts you bought them. They're like, man, I remember when dad dressed up in a dress and played tea parties with me. Nobody cares. A true man, masculinity is not about what the clothes you wear. It's about who you are in your heart and how you serve your family and who you show up as. Period, end of story. And as men, I think my drive is obviously my family. You know that. That's what gets me up every day. But really is to show people and my kids, no matter what your situation was, no matter what happens, you can choose every day to be this person. You can be who you want to be. You can be the change you want to see in life, right? And so it's so important to me to show up as a father, I show up as a husband. But another thing I forgot to mention, my wife who's been with me through thick and thin 23 years now, she also taught me how to be the man I should be. And I give her a lot of credit because I'll be honest with you, most men, they're like, I got this figured out. They don't really hear what other people are saying. My wife is not only my love, my soulmate, she's my best friend, but she will also kick my ass. I mean, she will absolutely annihilate me when I'm doing something wrong and she'll call me out. So really, I'm part of who I am today because my other part, right? So I had to acknowledge my wife because I mentioned here that she was a nurse. I forgot to mention she was a nurse when I was picking the field between medicine and dentistry. And she said, do you want to be married to your page of your life? So part of this journey, hey, mad kudos to my wife, Sabrina. So there you go.
Well, you know what, brother? That's what I'm talking about. Because here's the thing. I always tell people, great leaders listen. And if you're listening to this, right, man, woman, child, whatever the case may be, when you are in a household and you are trying to work towards having a happy household, if you're not listening to your spouse, or if you aren't listening to your children, or if you aren't listening to your parents, you can create an environment that nobody wants to live in, right? Nobody. And again, I don't hold any ill will towards my daughter's mother, right? I mean, I don't. I wish things would have turned out differently. And I always tell you at the end of the day, I wish I would have done some things differently in our marriage, like been a better communicator, not be one under financial stress and pressure, let that allow me to do things and act emotional when I shouldn't have, because I was frustrated about finance, things like that. So I'm not saying that we didn't have things go where I could have been better, right? I think that's something that I try to get people to understand, right? That is the premise of this show. Get off that. I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, it was all her fault. Well, no, I'm not going to say that, because in the beginning, right, there are things that I could have done differently, right? And so I own that. And so my question for you is, right, Bobby, in the work you do, right, you're a dentist, you're helping people, all that kind of stuff. But let me go ahead for a second. What type of work are you doing outside of being a dentist? Like, you talk about you do faith things. Like, are you doing some speaking? Are you doing some workshops? Are you helping people? Like, are you kind of getting people together for for quote unquote masterminds? Like, what are things that you're doing to go along with being an amazing dentist to help with this crusade to move it forward to touch other people?
So it's a great question. Early on, I started out by just doing some podcasting like you did, right? I'm like, I got to share this message. I remember watching one time, listening to Russell Bronson goes, everybody has a story. So I said there was, I'm just going to tell my story, right? I started out just this small podcasting. And I realized, man, that's just not, it's great. You get some likes, whatever, you get people to subscribe. But like, I got to go bigger. Like, I think that every time, Marcus, every time I started talking in church groups, or I started talking in show, like, people would say, hey, will you speak? Every time I would just do office meetings with my team and I started inspiring them with that, like, I realized there was this power in me that I would get fired up. Dude, it was almost like when you win a game or you're going to the Super Bowl, there was this just energy that ran through my body when I didn't even get $1. So I'm like, man, well, this must be my calling. This must be what I'm supposed to do. But to answer your question, I do every Tuesday, I do live shows online from 1 to 1:30. I'm running the Dentist CEO program now, which is really coaching other dentists really through life. So yes, it focuses on from a dentist to a dentist CEO, how to truly run a business. But trust me, man, there's conversations I have with dentists about, okay, how's your marriage life? Why does that matter? You're like, how does that matter in business? Because I promise you, if your marriage is off, your business is off. It all ties hand in hand. Right. And then they'll say, well, how are you doing in your fitness level? Not really good. My energy kind of sucks. Well, guess what? That ties in too. Right. So that's why I say body being balanced in business. Right. Your balance is your family life. Your body is your own personal life. Your weapon. You're a ex-professional football player. You get it. Right. And then your being is your meditation, what it is, just getting to know yourself. Marcus, so many people don't know ourselves. So I'm really trying to get people to really dive deep and be authentic with themselves. Because the word integrity, authenticity, it's easy to give to somebody else. It's easy. I can keep my word to you, Marcus. You know who we don't keep our word to the most? Ourselves. So we're not even really sometimes authentic with our own self. We give ourselves an excuse or a pass, and we're not being authentic and real. So full circle. But I do, like I said, I'm speaking, I'm coaching, I'm mentoring. Right now I do a lot of things, a lot of avenues. But right now I'm really focusing on my coaching. I'm really focusing on coaching and serving people. Growing with Grossi, that's another subsidiary of it all. That's really coaching everybody. So like it could be a 12-year-old kid, they jump on there live and I'm just talking about life. Like I'm just talking about life and being real and authentic. But I use a lot of business principles and my own stories. But that's what I'm doing right now.
It's really touching when you take all that you've gone through and you're now doing your lives, doing your outreach, doing your coaching, doing your speaking. I think that's really, really amazing. And so my question to you is, right, when I speak for audiences, right, I always tell my custom suit story, right? And everybody that's either heard me speak or heard me on a podcast or whatever the case may be, right, they know deep down that the moment that I turned my life around, or quote unquote, the rock bottom moment for me, was a custodian making $8.25 an hour after losing my construction company, being fired from 2 jobs, having to start completely over from scratch, and just saying, wow, what the heck is going on here? And that was the moment, one of my favorite quotes by one of my favorite people, J.K. Rowling's, rock bottom is the moment that I rebuilt my life. Mm-hmm. And she is the only billionaire author in the world. The only one. She's given away over $250 million to charity, right? And she had her rock bottom moment writing Harry Potter in her car in Starbucks just to survive. Like I had my rock bottom moment as a custodian. What was Bobby Grossi's rock bottom moment that made him realize that, wow, I really do need to not just only work in this area of dentist or try to pursue that, but I also have gone through something traumatic, gone through some type of life-altering experience where I want to speak, I want to inspire, I want to help people, and not just be about me, but take my story, take my pain, and make it my purpose.
I got a lot, but I guess the first one that comes to my mind when you said that was I was in my second year dental school. My wife and I had our first child. We just got married. I mean, we did everything wrong. I was commuting back and forth from Flint to Detroit Mercy, working third shift at GM, sleeping 2 hours a day for 4 years, trying to get to where I want. I almost flunked out. So this is a funny story. I almost flunked out of dental school. It wasn't because I wasn't smart enough. I just was exhausted. I started being rage, angry, taking things out on my wife, going dark, like really just falling into an ugly, ugly pit, not making the best choices to the point where I almost lost my marriage, right, at that time. And I can remember just crying. I can remember buckling down and just, I can't do this. I almost quit. Flunked a big test. I mean, let's understand, at the time you have no money. You're investing $250,000 in your education. If you don't graduate, you still got to pay it back. So I was just lost. I was just lost, man. I mean, here's a guy from Flint, Michigan, making $12,000 a year, trying to provide for his wife and kid, but knowing that he's got to stay committed to his goal. But nothing was working out. It was just dark. Nothing was working out. And it wasn't until reason why I talk spiritual now, and even on my band, it says he would love first. Why I go deep into spirituality is I had to pick up the Bible. And I remember just saying, I have no hope. What am I going to do? I'm going to lose everything. I'm going to lose my wife. I'm not going to be the father to my kids. I started behaving as if I was my father, which I didn't want to be. Chewing tobacco for lying to my wife about chewing tobacco. I just did every stupid thing you can imagine, right? Trying to avoid the truth, right? Sedate myself into something else besides what it was. And then I leaned in Christ, man. And I just said, you know what? Show me the way out of it. I was in a really pit. And it was in the darkness that I saw the light. And I knew that, okay, you just got to take one step. Take one step and take a step in every direction. Where do you want to go? So I put a character. You put J.K. Rowling's. I wrote a piece of paper and I said, this is who you are today. And on the right side, I said, this is where you got to go and who you're going to become. And I just worked every day to be that character in my own story. And then with that said, things started to evolve. Things started opening up. Opportunities started coming in because I started to see the light through the darkness. And then I started becoming just real, authentic, honest. That's why to me, when you say the word authenticity, I've already gone through shit. I lied about everything you probably could lie about. Now it's about being real. And this was in 2003, 2002, 2003. And it's 21 years later. And I will tell you this, if I wouldn't have went through that, I would not be the man I'm standing here today. So I embrace every journey that I ever had. But that was one. There's more, but that was one. That was one.
Well, Bobby, I really appreciate that because, like you said, having that what we call getting emotional, not being cognitive, making mistakes, being under pressure, stress, issues, finances. those things can weigh on an individual. And I agree with you 100%. So you sharing that and talking about how you finally turned to Christ and that you let him and God lead you down the path, got you to now where you are. That's a very powerful testimony. And the people that are listening that might be struggling with their own darkness. I want you to write this quote down, by the way. Write this quote down, okay, Bobby, for you,
Yes.
okay? In times of extreme darkness, focus on the light. Aristotle. And what I believe he meant, Bob, is that we are the light that can get out of adverse, dark times if we look inside ourselves, believe in ourselves, and keep moving forward. Yep. Bobby, how can our audience get in touch with you? They want to know more about your lives, more about your speaking, more about your coaching, more about your services. How can our audience get in touch with Bobby Grossi?
The simplest way is just go to thedentistceo.com. That's the one way. But obviously, you can go to Bobby J. Grossi DDS on Instagram. That's also my LinkedIn. That's also my Facebook page. And also, you got the Dentist CEO on IG. But my personal page on Instagram is Bobby Grossi DDS.
Ladies and gentlemen, this episode was sponsored by Mini Minds and Money Ripples. We thank both of them for aligning their brands with our show. The authentic tip of this great interview: in life, find someone that you can vibe with, that you can connect with, that's going to hold you accountable. Just like Bobby said, his wife, his best friend, soulmate, supporter, but also ass kicker. If he's not doing something correctly, she will let him know. And you know what? That is exactly what it should be like. Someone should love you enough and care for you enough to be honest with you, to get the best version of you. If you don't have that, check yourself. Again, my name is Marques Ogden, the host of the Get Authentic with Marques show. Thanks for tuning in. Have a great day.